Okay, part 2 of the build. Let's see here. Assembling the stair system. Attaching the landings to the stringers. Not too bad, a little awkward because of the weight of them. Unfortunately, we had the backhoe loader to help us get them in position while we were bolting them together. We had to drill some additional holes because the holes, unfortunately, were in the wrong place. So luckily I had my handy dandy mag drill, one of the best tools I've ever purchased. I don't think I could have done this project or the bridge project without it. Anyway, we got the holes drilled and then got the, all the work on the ground done that needed to be done as far as attaching the landings to the stringers. So let's see, the crane comes up the driveway. So this is the second time the crane's on site. It had come up originally to set the first mast section into the foundation with the embedded legs before the concrete was poured. So here we are with the crane, continuing with the stair system, mounting the landings to the masts, to the tower masts. Very difficult getting everything to line up. Nothing about the stair system assembly went smoothly. Unfortunately, very little lined up. Everything was kind of all bent or twisted, and a little bit, just enough where we had to use ratchet straps to pull things over, to pull them up, to get the bolt holes to line up so we could get the bolts through them. Here's the nephews at the creek, back at the cabin after a hard day's work. It was a very hot day, and we worked a long day, and it was very nice to see them enjoying the creek. Lisa and I were on the bridge hanging out, and they were skipping rocks, and it was just very nice. It's just so beautiful back there, so peaceful. It's about a half a mile further back on the road, the same road that the lookout tower's on. It's just deeper into the wilderness. Here comes the Mega Beast pulling the bath container on the trailer. Turns very tight, so it's challenging getting those containers on the trailer and the big truck around that turn. And then, the back of the trailer, the grade difference between the road and the driveway at the bottom is just so steep that it required the backhoe loader to lift up the back of the trailer a little bit so that it wouldn't get scrape and get stuck on the ground. But we managed, and then we also used the backhoe loader to go up the driveway, just an extra safety precaution with the trailer. So we had, two machines bringing them up instead of one. That was really cool. Things were very tight up at the crest at the point where, all the components were laid out, but we managed, we got everything in there. Had to do a lot of wrestling, moving things around to get them all in position for the crane, but we finally got it. See, it's a beautiful fall day. It was just, this was the end of October, I believe. It was just amazing. The weather and the color was just spectacular last fall. Yeah, there's the nephews helping me move the deck that goes between the two containers on the main level. Boy, that thing was awkward. And I was kind of messing with them too. I was jerking it around a little bit, making it hard on them just for fun. I never told them that, but anyway, there's my father doing some angle grinding. We had to cut some of the expanded metal out on the platform in order to access rigging spots that we hooked our rigging into. There's the platform fully assembled. Man, that thing was huge and so heavy. It was a challenge getting that thing up to the crest and getting it all together. But once it was together, it was pretty easy to lift with the crane. That massive crane had no problem with lifting any of the components on this project. You can see there's the second mast sections in place there now. And the stair system continues to be assembled. One thing I'll say about, at this point was initially, I had purchased a man lift for a number of reasons. Number one, to aid with the, the erection of the tower while the crane was on site, so we could easily access all the points where the pins had to go in and the bolts, and it would have it would have made the project, that part of the project, so much easier if it was actually working. But 2 weeks before the crane was scheduled to come out, I couldn't get it running, and there was a fuel solenoid issue that prevented fuel from getting to the fuel pump, and I just could not get that thing running. So we ran out of time. I couldn't get my diesel mechanic out in time to get it going. So we ended up not having the man lift on site when the crane came out there, and therefore all the assembly had to be done from climbing, basically. Harness and climbing gear. You could see later in the video there was some work that was done from the basket. The crane brought a basket out, a man basket, in case we needed it. And I'm glad they did, because, you could see in that video that we're using the mag drill to drill some holes, and that mag drill is really heavy, and to try to use that thing while you're just climbing, with climbing gear would be almost next to impossible. But anyway, not having that man lift on site really cost us a lot of time. I would say we lost probably a day and a half, maybe 2 days. When I say lost, I mean the crane was on site for an additional day and a half or 2 days as a result of not having that man lift on site and working. Another thing I'll say at this point is the stair system was extremely challenging to assemble. Like I said earlier, just nothing lined up, nothing went together. And I would say that the crane was on site for, I think, 7 days. And I would say half of that time was spent just working on the stair system. So it took just as much time to erect the stair system as it did the rest of the tower. I mean, the masts, the platform, the containers, the roof deck. It took probably as much time, with the crane to do the stair system as everything else combined. So it just, I was I was thinking that the crane would be on site 2 days. And it might have been the case if it wasn't for the stair system being so complicated and challenging. Anyway, so let's live and learn. The next tower that I do is not going to use that stair system. We're going to go with a spiral stair system that's fabricated into maybe 3 sections, and all you have to do is stack them on top of each other, and then attach brackets that go from the spiral staircase over to the mast and clamp onto the mast. And that'll go, it should go much quicker than this traditional type of staircase that we used on this first lookout. Here we are putting the platform on top. Little nervous. It's one of those things where, I hope everything lines up, because until you're actually trying to put it in place, you don't know, is it going to line up? Are we going to be able to clamp it down? Is we going to have to cut anything? Well, who knows? But fortunately, it went on just fine, and no problem. And here I am climbing up the stairs with no railings up to the platform that has no railings. And you can see the way I'm walking. I'm taking these little steps, and I've kind of got my hands out to the side. So I'm just being really cautious, being that I'm not tied into anything. It was the first experience in a situation like that, I think. So I'm just going up here to take some measurements and mark where the first shipping container is going to be positioned on the mast, just to save some time when the crane's actually moving it. And then here we are, me and one of the crane operator assistants working out of the crane basket and working with the mag drill. Here's our first drone footage going up and looking down at the top of the tower, so to speak. You can see the vastness of the wilderness, how remote. It gives you a sense of how remote this location is. Working with my father, probably asking him for advice. It was great having him there and being able to bounce things off him, and because he's really good at problem solving with things like this. So it was also just great being able to work with him on this project. It'd been so long since we had done something, worked on a project together. So it was, I feel really fortunate to have been able to do that with him. Here's the main container being craned into position. It was a little bit lopsided because of the balcony deck was adding weight to that one side over there. You can see the balcony sticking out, and so that made things a little awkward. And then when we went to set it down, it was very difficult getting the clamp bolts through the holes, and there's holes in the platform that those bolts, you can see the bolts hanging down on either side of me there. It was very difficult getting them to line up and go down in the holes. And we actually had to end up taking this container back off, putting it on the ground, and resituating these, there's spacers that go on the bolts between the platform and the bottom of the container. We had to reconfigure them a little bit to get things to line up. So that was very time consuming, getting the containers, set onto the platform. And we finally managed to get it done. Here we are putting the solar panel frames on. And again, this is another thing where it had to line up perfectly on the corners of the containers. You can't really see it, but there's 1-inch bolts that are welded and sticking up on the corners that the frame of this rooftop deck had to, go between, come down and set between before they could be clamped down. And it was another one of those things where I didn't know if it was going to actually line up. I did my best with my measurements when I was building this thing down in Alpharetta, but until you're actually trying to put it in position, you don't know for sure if it's going to line up. But so when it all sat down and rested on the containers and everything was good to go, I was so relieved, because that was like the last thing that was a big question mark of whether or not it was going to go together or not. But it went together just fine. It was a windy day. You can see the wind, the trees blowing around back there, and so it was kind of blowing around when the crane was moving it, and that was a little precarious, but not too bad. That was the only windy day we had, actually. I think this is the last day. So we had some really good weather for this. I'm really I think we were really fortunate as far as that goes, that the weather was so cooperative. Anyway, I think that's it. Yep, that's it. And then you see the finished product here. All the solar panels are not on yet because we had to take a bunch of them off in order to, attach the rigging cables from the crane, to the rooftop deck frame. The panels were in the way, so we had to take a bunch off, and I ended up putting them back on with the man lift after the crane was gone, and I got it working again. I got that fuel pump issue resolved, and then got that up there, and it's been on site ever since. It's a permanent feature of the Lookout. The man lift is for washing windows, any kind of repair work, anything that needs to be done on the exterior of the Lookout. That's hard to, in an area that's hard to access. That's what that man lift is for, and it's very, very convenient having it. You can see it in some of the photos on the website, the drone footage. You can see it's, up there on the ridge, and it's come in really handy with doing the plumbing underneath the containers and roof work, cleaning windows, caulking. It's just been, I don't know how I would do it without that lift. It would be next to impossible. So hopefully it'll do its job for many years to come. Well, I think that's about it. I can't think of anything else at this point, so I'm signing off.